and I understand that the earphone replacement worked.
Yep, it
Mhm.
actually, 5 euro on Amazon, Bezos sorted me out very quickly. Works well. When I'm sending back the beeper, I'll just send you this as well because I have really no use for it. And maybe it's useful to you, but I think the sound is actually a little bit better on it. Maybe it feels like the beep is even sharper. I don't know if it is, but it kind of feels like it's really kind of very sharp and quick. So
I'm
yeah, it works perfectly.
I'm guessing that's true. The audio quality has never been a particular issue for me. The reason that I use the earphones that I use, well, historically, is that I could get a hook behind them, which made it more secure when you were out moving around your environment or whatever. But actually, that has turned out to be a big problem. And the hook that goes behind your ear, I actually
Yeah.
have I actually have designed and printed on a 3D printer because you can't buy them anymore. So had to make those.
Wow. Really from the ground up.
It is pretty much from the ground up.
Very cool. But yeah, we're perfect. We're
All
perfect.
right. So this is going to be your fourth day, third day, something like that.
Fourth, I think, yeah.
Fourth, I think.
We're flying.
Anything we should be talking about other than beepers before we launch into that?
I don't think so. Do you have in mind how many weeks will be required? Do you kind of on an ongoing weekly basis make that determination on if there's enough good beeps, or how are you thinking about how many weeks this should go on for?
Well, I've got
I'm
the
enjoying it, by the way. I'm not in any rush to end it, but I was just curious.
so I would say the straightforwardest answer to that is when everybody concerned thinks that we should do another week, then we should do another week. And 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 that's a joint effort as far as I'm concerned. Everybody has his own individual contribution to make to that. When I would say everybody will think we've had enough when Evan is saying, well, this beep is very much like that one I had on the second day, and this beep is very much like the one that I had on the third day, and this beep,
Right.
when that happens, then for sure we're done, or pretty close to for sure we're done. And then
Yep.
in the middle things are sort of ambiguous. And so what I'd say is that we have, by the time we're done today, I'm guessing that we will have done enough beeps so that Evan will know what it's like to be a DES participant. So I think we have probably scratched that itch adequately. And then I actually forget what his samples are like. So I don't really have much of an opinion about how many I think we ought to do. I'm going to be out of town for the next couple of weeks, so we're going to take a 2 week break one way or the other, and then we'll decide whether to come back to this or not.
Cool. Again, I don't feel like we're done. I think there's scenarios that I would like to sample that I haven't yet. I got a few different beeps this time around, exercising and such, but I feel like there's a few other things that I'd like to do at least. You know, it's not an I'm not always just sitting at my desk working, and that's what's pretty much been 95% of the beeps up until
Yeah.
now. So I'd like a bit more range.
So I'm thinking I'm going to be in favor of that too, but let's go one notch at a time.
Yeah, sounds good.
So beep number one, we ready for that?
Yep. So I was on the stationary bike at home, so exercising. I was listening to a video, had a bit of a blurred vision, had no real awareness of the words in that video. I was eating an apple, but didn't really have awareness of the taste in that moment. So it was sort of a minimal awareness beep.
So of that, the only thing that I heard experientially was a blurred vision of the video. Is that right?
And yeah, blurred vision and sort of listening to the video. Yeah, I didn't really have any bodily sensations and again, I was doing those things, but really didn't have any awareness of them in that moment. So I was listening to video with a bit blurred vision.
So I'm hearing the video, but
Yeah,
I'm not getting the words out of it.
not particularly, no. Not massive awareness of the content in that moment.
So and does it feel like that I'm hearing? words, like I'm hearing a stream of words, I'm just not picking up what they mean? Or does it seem like I'm hearing audio that's coming from that video and not even,
Yeah, more like sound. I really wasn't paying much attention to anything.
okay? So sound is coming in and being processed as sound,
Yes.
whatever being processed means, but I'm experiencing a stream of sound coming to me, and I'm experiencing a stream of visual stuff coming from a video, enough that it's a video. Is that right?
Yeah.
I understand that I understand myself to be seeing a video, but I'm not
Yeah.
even processing that to know enough about what I'm seeing. So
That's
it's
pretty
like
much right.
I'm doing visual processing enough to see, but without really knowing what I'm seeing. And I'm doing auditory processing to know that I'm hearing, even though it's not enough to know what I'm hearing. Is
Yeah.
that is that right?
Pretty much. And oh, sorry, I missed one line here, but I have a somewhat sweaty body and I was hot and tired. I missed one sentence at the end here. But that wasn't very much of my awareness either.
So there are three then facts of the universe that you have mentioned, what I call facts of the universe. I'm eating an apple, but that's not in my experience. I am
Yes.
sweating, and that's not in my experience. Then I'm riding the bike, but that's not in my experience either.
Right. Yeah. It was sort of a minimal awareness leap. I thought that when I was exercising, I would have a much more evocative awareness of, but it wasn't. I wasn't really aware of much at all.
Okay. Gualtiero?
And my heart rate was 120 beats per minute. If you care at all, I said I would just chart it down, but I don't think it's particularly relevant.
So, yeah, you didn't mention anything about your body or moving the body or riding the bicycle or anything like that. Sounds like there was no inner experience either of like the body or your movement or anything like that. Is that right?
Right. Basically, any experience I would have thought that I would have, I didn't have. No awareness of my tired legs, no heartbeat. The sweatiness was there a little bit, but not as prominent as it should have been. Like it was 35 degrees outside, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, 90, 100, whatever it is. But yeah, none of it was really in my awareness. Interesting enough.
Okay. So the way I think about those things is that I think that all the inner experience is a layered process that takes place in parallel. And you're doing processing. Obviously, you are processing. Your body is processing the bicycle motion because you're engaged in that motion and you're not falling off the bike and whatever. So you're processing all that stuff. It just doesn't make its way into you don't what I would say you don't experientialize it. You don't make it thematic. Yeah. You good, Gualtiero? Number 2.
Yes.
So on the bike still, this is a mostly visual experience. So I was watching my phone and I was aware of the words that he was saying and I was aware of the visuals, but I couldn't recall what the exact words were. I was aware that I was listening and recalling words and watching the phone directly. And my heart rate was 115 beats per minute.
So are you watching like a video on your phone? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So mostly a visual experience.
And by mostly a visual, do you mean to say that the verbal content, the semantic content, is not that important to you? I'm hearing it with comprehension, but I'm more interested in the visual stuff? Or is it that I am processing this video, the video is coming at me, it's visual and it's auditory, and I'm processing all this stuff, even though I can't remember at the moment what it was?
I think I'm processing both, but it was predominantly a visual experience in that moment. So maybe 60-40 visual to auditory or 65-35, something like that. So both, registering both and aware of both in that beat, but predominantly visual.
And anything in particular about the visual?
No, I don't think so. just being drawn to the actual movement on the screen. I think I didn't note down awareness of anything particular.
So it's not like I'm interested in what the guy is wearing or the color of the screen or the whatever, but I do feel myself to be more involved visually than I
Yeah.
am auditorially, even though I am hearing with comprehension.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this
Strange
video
beeps, really.
and is this video of somebody talking and talking head
Yeah.
kind of a deal?
Yeah. Literally just sitting at a desk talking. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm understanding the whole thing, so I'm no doubt receiving approximately what it is that the podcaster or whatever was sending out. That he wants me to be watching this guy and listening to him, and I'm watching this guy and listening to him.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think I'm good, Gualtiero.
Yeah, so again, there was basically, as far as you can tell, nothing, if I understand correctly, there was nothing about your body or your bodily movement and your experience at that time, or
In
about
those particular two beeps, no.
sensations in your body,
So
nothing in
this is
your
where I'd like
experience, just
more.
the visual.
Right. In those two beeps, yeah. I would like more beeps exercising because I feel like I do generally have a lot of bodily awareness when I'm exercising, and my legs are sore and my heart's beating and I'm sweating, and I am very conscious of that. But it just so happened on these two beeps, they were both kind of lacking in awareness, lacking in experience beeps. They both kind of caught me off guard a little bit. And I just was kind of, wasn't doing a whole lot of much.
Well, it could very well be that most of the time when you're exercising, you are paying attention to your body, but these two were exceptional. And
Yeah.
it could also be that your armchair introspection of what you do when you're exercising is mistaken. And this is
Definitely partly the second.
and,
If I've
and,
learned anything from doing this.
yeah. And I don't know the answer. I don't have a theory that says that. I think I think we need to be open to either one of those possibilities. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that makes me curious about this is that when I did the VES, I had several situations where I was exercising or moving or doing Tai Chi, and I typically, if I remember right, typically I did have bodily sensations, sensations of movement or pressure or doing things with my body. Sometimes with the whole body, it was kind of a diffused sense of the whole body moving or doing things. So it's interesting to me to hear the contrast.
so I agree with that characterization of your examples, and it looks to me like Evan and Gualtiero have different kinds of experiences, at least in the samples that we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 3.
So I was reading a headline. Tsunami hits Hawaii, the tragedy that happened today.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking at a visual of the collapsed buildings. The yellow color is prominent on the building in my awareness. And then I had my hand on my beard, and I could notice both the bristles of the hair on the tips of my fingers and my fingers pressing on the hairs into the skin of my face. So two bidirectional tactile sensation, I guess, of my hand on the beard.
And so it seems like there's sort of two mostly sensory streams. One visual about the headline and the other about the beard. Is that right?
Yeah, and reading the headline in my head as well.
Okay. And and do you lump together experientially the headline and the collapsed building, or does it seem like I'm reading the headline and I'm seeing the collapsed building and I'm feeling my beard?
I would say that the reading the headline and looking at the visuals somewhat seem connected, obviously by nature of kind of the sort of getting the information, I guess. And then that feels separate to the tactile sensation of the fingers on the beard and the back onto the face.
Okay. And then accepting the first two as together, are we 50-50 or more about the beard or less about the beard?
In this case, I'd say 70 even, 70, 30, 80, 20 even, that the reading the headline and the looking at the visual was definitely the most prominent.
Okay. Well, let's start there. So between that, so within that one, within the tsunami beep aspect of the beep, is it more about the headline or more about the picture of the collapsed building?
I would say the picture.
And within the picture, I understood you to be saying the picture is of a collapsed building, but your interest is in the yellow of it. Is that right?
Yeah, it was definitely in my awareness. Now, how much I don't know. But that's difficult to tell.
And the it in that sense is the yellow? How much
maybe 50-50, but very hard to tell.
Okay.
Of the color of the yellow and the general picture.
So as far as the seeing of the collapsed building, I'm both seeing the collapsed building of it and I am seeing the yellow of it.
Yeah. Seems to be some interesting aspect to my visual system that I just latch onto color.
Okay. Which is not that uncommon and almost never known until people look at it in BES beeps.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And so let's start with the color. Is the color of the building or is like, where does...
Of the building.
So the building, it's a yellow building which has collapsed, and for whatever reason, you're at least as much interested in the yellowness of it as in the collapsedness of it. Is that...
Yeah, that's such a weird sentence that I would even remotely be interested in the color of the building when the building is collapsing under the tragic natural disaster. I have no idea why that caught my awareness, but it just did.
And absolutely that it seems weird, but it's not. But it's not in my experience, and which is another piece of evidence in favor or against or whatever armchair introspection, because no armchair introspector or hardly ever whatever. Well, I'm really interested in the yellow of that collapsed building.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just not the way it seems like it ought to be.
You're right.
And is there anything more to be said about the visual? So I'm interested in the yellowness for whatever, and I'm interested in the. I'm gathering that this picture is portraying the disastrous of the, and I'm getting that. Is that?
Yeah, I think prior to the beep, I had like a bit of a shock, but then that had kind of eased out by the time of the beep, and then it was mainly the color, for whatever reason.
Okay. People are complicated. And then there's first off, I guess, is that on your phone? Or are you reading that on your phone? Or is
on my laptop.
Oh, on your laptop. Okay. Gualtier, are you happy with that portion?
Yeah.
And then there's the beard, which I don't think I understood. So better start from the beginning with the beard.
Yeah. So literally just my hand was on my beard, and I could notice the bristles, so like the kind of almost the spikiness of the hair on my fingertips. And I could notice my fingers pressing down on the hair and touching my skin. So like it's a bi-directional tactile, right? So I could feel the sense on both sides.
So if I'm understanding correctly, with my fingertips, I feel the prickly, spiky of my beard.
Yeah.
That's a fingertip sensation.
Yeah.
And then a cheeky sensation, I feel my fingers pushing into my cheek. That's a cheek receptor sensation.
Yeah.
I'm feeling them both simultaneously, but separately.
Yes.
I don't mean entirely separately, but
yeah, separately is always hard. I don't really know what that would mean for it to be separate or together, but yeah.
And what I mean by that is it doesn't seem like there is a single beard sensation with two aspects. It seems more like I have a finger sensation and a cheek sensation. They're obviously physically intertwined or whatever, but
I think so.
Okay. So there are three in this beep, I guess, what I would call sensory awarenesses: yellowness, prickliness, spikiness, and pressure.
Yeah.
Simultaneous.
It's weird how I'm not getting any like emotional content in any of these. You know, there's no emotion behind the photo, or there's no feeling of sadness, happiness, whatever. I feel pretty emotionally neutral, weirdly, in all these beeps.
That's pretty common too, actually, and I don't think that indicates emotional deficit.
I think that was my. I don't think there was any beep in which I reported feeling an emotion. Was there?
I think maybe not any, or one maybe.
That's kind of stunning, isn't it? We think of ourselves as such emotional creatures, and I think we're like, you know, and then we just get no emotional moments in weeks of beeps. It's like, that's pretty strange.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought there would be, and like sooner or later, I'm gonna feel some emotion, right?
I swear I can feel emotion. I promise I can. I'm capable of it. Yeah. Where is it?
Well, I think what that does for me is it's another armchair introspection deal, but beyond that, it is that I think there's a big difference between the experience of emotion, which I call feelings, and you all didn't have any yet of those, and emotional process, which is, adrenal glands doing whatever adrenal glands do, and hearts do whatever hearts do, and all the rest of that stuff, which DES isn't capable of ascertaining. So there could be all sorts of emotional processes going on, which DES doesn't get to. And I think the emotion science distinguishes between feelings and emotional process, but not adequately. I think if they had more time spent in the chair that I'm spent talking with people like you who don't have the experience of feelings, but the emotion science would be somewhat different. But.
Right. It's an interesting observation that emotion seems mostly subconscious in most people. Like it's not a thing we're consciously aware of moment to moment.
Well, I would agree with that. Some people. For some people, yeah. For some people.
Yeah.
Some people experience emotion a lot. And there are interesting stories to be told about that too. But I think we as a psychological science know very little about it, because what we know about it comes from casual observation, armchair introspection, questionnaires, none of which are adequate to the experience as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Number 4.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Of course.
So it sounded like these experiences you just described were mostly static, meaning just the sensation of pressure, the prickliness, or the color of the building, and so forth. Was there not any sensation of change in any of this, like as in the pressure is increasing on my cheek, or the fingers are moving against the beard, or the building itself is moving, or you're moving your eyes relative to the title of the article, or something like that? Anything like that?
See, that's an interesting question, because to me, change denotes the passage of time, right? Something changing from one second to another. And I've been trying to kind of freeze frame a singular moment. So I would say that by virtue of what I'm trying to do, sort of change is impossible. Like I'm trying to catch a freeze moment rather than capture any sort of passage of time. Do you see what I mean? Would that be right?
Yeah.
So what I would say is that in a moment, at the moment of some beep, I think it would be possible to experience change. Like I am pouring water and I can see the water coming out. The amount of water in the glass is changing. That can be happening at the moment of a beep.
Okay.
just as a good still picture, a still photograph can capture action like a bicycle race or whatever. It's a tennis serve. A good picture is obviously fixed, but it can convey motion in it. So I think that stuff is available at the moment of the beep. I also think that so I could say you could have said, I feel the bristles of my beard flicking away as my hand moves across them. So I'm moving my hand across and as I do that, I feel the
right,
whatever, which is not what you said. So that would be another way of catching motion, even though at a particular moment we could.
Possibly I've been discounting that possibility maybe a little bit too much, and I've been trying to capture like a frozen moment where change is impossible by virtue of literally, in my mind. So maybe I've been discounting that without thinking about it, if there is any change in the moment.
So I think that's possible, but I also think that it's possible that your experience is not of change.
Yeah.
And so I would caution us against trying to amplify the change aspect. But I also agree with Gualtiero or all of us, that we don't want to ignore it just because it seems like it extends beyond the beep. So what I would say about the beep is not designed to capture something that is short. DES is not designed to capture a short experience. DES is designed, whether I convey it adequately is another question, but DES is designed to capture something that was ongoing at a particular moment. But that ongoingness can extend before and after, maybe even a long time before or after. So I've got people who say, I had this image and I've had this image for a minute. That's very unusual, but in my experience, I've been holding on to this experience for a minute.
Okay.
And the beep catches it at this portion of it. And some people would say, as Gualtiero asks, like, it's not that uncommon that people would say, I have an image that's fading, and I capture it at some particular point in the fading, but the experiences of this thing going away in clarity, the clarity diminishing, and that's fine with me. I'm happy to hear about that, as long as the fading was in process at the moment of the beep. And I think you interrupted Gualtiero.
Well, I was just going to say something similar to what Russ just said, that my understanding is that it's okay to extend the interval from which you report your experience if it's relevant and if you remember it. So if it could be something that happened for a short period of time before, or I guess even not necessarily super short, but certainly it doesn't have to be just the very frozen instant right before the beep. It could be something that was happening and then you remember that, and it involves some change.
I'll keep that in mind without allowing it to bias me, or without trying to bias me. I'll keep that in mind, because I think I was very focused on capturing basically a frozen moment in time and kind of discounting everything beforehand by virtue. I was going to ask you this before.
So let me say one more thing about that, and hold that question. I'm interested in that question too. Yeah. But what frequently happens is that people are beeped when they're saying something, either innerly or outerly. And so it could be that, at the moment of the beep, I'm reciting Shakespeare. To be or not to be, that is the question. And my experiences of speaking that line, and that line is obviously extended in time and goes back and forth. So the question would be, would it be better to say, I am speaking to be or not to be, that is the question, or would it be better to say, I am speaking the word is, because is the where the beep happened to catch me at. And I think experientially that your experiences of speaking the sentence, not of speaking the word, or I think for most people, there are exceptions to that, but most people experience themselves as speaking something which is extended in time, and the beep happens to catch in some piece of it.
Right. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. What I was going to ask is, have you ever tried I was always wondering why it was always the pristine second and not the pristine 5 seconds or even 10 seconds or even 30 seconds or a minute. Now, I assume there's some issues with recollection. If people can't barely recall 1 second, that recalling 10 seconds is going to be an issue. But then I'd always also be curious, if it beeped and I wrote down kind of what was even happening in the 10 or 15 seconds, would you capture more information? I don't know. I was just curious, like, if you tried different time lengths of people writing it down and then getting on the call and talking about it.
Yeah,
Maybe it'll take forever because it takes a long time to do 1 second.
A lot of people make suggestions like that, and I don't have any actual philosophical objection to it. What I would say is it's very much more difficult and it's very much more fraught,
Right.
because what you think of as 10 seconds is now it's not really 10 clock seconds. It's whatever you think is sort of a longish time or a shortish time or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would say there could come a time when I would say, well, somebody's really good at this and knows what's going on at the moment. Let's see whether we can extend it before that. And that I wouldn't necessarily object to that, but I would be much more skeptical.
Yeah, makes sense. We could even try it on 1 week or something, where we went from 6 beeps to 3 and then did 5 seconds. I'd be really curious even to know if it was possible. It always feels like my beep isn't isn't a general experience. Like if I get a beep in an hour, my beep will not be representative of the sample of that hour, kind of. But again, that's armchair introspection on me thinking that I had any clue about what happened in that hour. So
yeah, well, for that one, I would say you should trust randomness. Random sampling is a powerful tool. And the other thing is, if you're really interested in this and you got the time to spend, there's a sample in my I think whether it's really there. Yeah, there's a sample in my collection on the web of a guy named, what the fuck is his name? I forget what his name is now because I've been sampling with it. I'll think of it. But who fancied himself as a DES expert when he came into the process, and he thought he could do it better than I can do it, basically, and he wanted to do the moment of the beep and the moment that was just prior to that. So very much like what you're saying. So he wanted to do his method was to do 2 moments, and we had very long conversations about that about the adequacy of that, and he sampled with that. I don't think we ever put he called it DDES or extended DES or something like that. But he wasn't very good at the first part of DES, I don't think.
Right.
At the beginning. But those conversations are all. It's the conversation that's right ahead of Mel in my book, so it's like in my collection. I'll have to look and see what blocking on his name here because I've been dealing with his brother at the same time. His name it's gone for the moment.
You can send me an email when you remember.
I'll send it.
Yeah, just interesting questions as they come to. You've definitely thought about these things in a lot more depth than me, so I'm always curious to hear your answers to why you do things in a particular way.
Yep. Number 4.
So I was speaking to my girlfriend and kind of gesturing at the screen with my right hand, saying, "Where are my sales?" And I had a visual experience of looking at the numbers on the screen, $16.84. So.
And what of that is, in your experience, and what of that is fact of the universe?
Yeah, good question. So visual experience, looking at the numbers, definitely part of my experience. I am gesturing at the screen with my right hand. It's a good question. Like, it kind of caught me in action for the first time, and I wasn't really sure what is a factor of the universe and what is part of my experience there. Like, did I have cognitive awareness that my hand was there? I was moving it.
You did have cognitive awareness of your hand being there?
I don't really know. This is kind of a hard one. Like it's kind of hard to tell. I'm not like, so I wrote down in this moment kind of what happened. It's kind of hard to know what was in my experience. Like, did I have awareness of my hand being there? Like, it was kind of moving. So it was part of my experience that I was kind of gesturing. I don't know. I thought it was important enough to write down because I thought it was part of, but I'm not sure I was thinking, I wasn't, it was just a hand motion. I'm not sure. Difficult one. We need
So
your help on this one.
the I guess the question is whether the hand motion is just a hand motion or whether I experience it as a gesture going towards the screen, in which case I'm experiencing myself as calling my girlfriend's attention to the screen, and the hand motion is the caller or the vehicle of that. Certainly
I think that's true.
Certainly it is possible to have hand motions, body motions, and have cognition of them. And certainly it is possible to have body motions and no cognition. We've had 2 samples of that already. On your stationary bike, your hands are in motion, your whole body's in motion, you're not paying any attention to it at all. So I'm gathering that there's something about this hand motion which is more experiential than the body motion of the bike.
Yes, there was an intentionality to it. There was, I think there was cognitive awareness of it, but it's not as simple as like it being in my mind that my right hand is, projected out to my right side in half a meter out in front of me pointing, so there's awareness of it, but it's not as, exact.
And is that awareness of the physics of my hand, or is that the awareness of the intentionality of the gesture? I'm calling my girlfriend's attention to the screen.
Intentionality of the gesture. That's the right way to put it.
Okay. So I am directing my girlfriend's gaze to the number on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some part of that felt like it was in my experience and awareness, but it's kind of hard to put words on what that awareness was, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. And then I am seeing 1684.
Yeah.
And is that the center of my experience, the 1684?
I'd say the center of my was kind of my exclamation, like where are my sales was probably the most.
Okay. And are you saying that out loud? Where are my sales?
Yeah, saying it out loud, yeah.
And is your experience of the speaking of it, or which would be I'm aware of the production and the feeling and the sound or whatever of the words, or am I aware of the semantic intentionality, for lack of a better word? I'm inquiring of my girlfriend, or calling this inquiry to my girlfriend's.
It's a good question. This one's harder for me to pinpoint than some of my other beeps. I don't really know in terms of experience in that moment. It's kind of hard to know. Like, I haven't really had a beep like this that caught me in this sort of movement. So it's kind of hard to put words on exactly what it is.
So I don't wish to diminish the difficulty of the task in the slightest, because I think it is difficult, if not impossible. But do you experience let's put it this way, do you experience yourself as speaking in a way that is more experiential than gesturing? Or does it seem like the speaking and the gesturing are more or less similar, that I am calling her attention to the screen verbally, and I am calling her
Yeah.
attention to the screen gesturally, and those are all both equal.
Yeah, they seem combined in the intention of directing her gaze to the screen. That would be right. And
Okay.
they seem pretty equal in that as well.
So it's not like I've planned some semantic thing that I've thought through these words and now I'm going to say these words. It's that these
Yeah.
words are a portion of the directing her to the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you probably don't want to put words on my experience, but how would you explain that?
So I think it's very common that people experience themselves as intentionally saying the words. This is what I wanted to say, and I am now saying it. That's sometimes happens. And it also happens that what I call words rolling out, that people emit words come out of their mouth, but I don't feel myself as the intentional driver of those words. And sometimes I actually call them gestural, and I use a hand gesture as a way of saying these words are coming out in the same way as a gesture comes out. I'm not planning to point with my right hand at the screen. I am interested in the screen, and my body, including my hand, goes in that way, and the words go in that way at the same way. And so I sometimes call those words rolling out and words gestural. And sometimes people experience themselves as speaking, and sometimes the words just roll out.
Right. I think it was more reactionary. So I think that the second one might even be more appropriate in that the thing that I was reacting to was the screen, and then the words and the gesture flew from that.
Yeah. I think there's probably it's not a black and white deal. It's sometimes more and sometimes less. But there's a lot of people who think that the words have some kind of really special, I think in words, and the words are sort of the primary semantic unit of the universe or whatever. And I just don't think that's true. I think words are skilled actions. Sometimes they're more semantic, and sometimes they're more gestural.
Right. Like the act of just talking to someone, it's kind of hard to put words on what your experience is in that moment if you're just speaking.
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's not. And that's because I think the words are not only semantic, that are trying to convey some kind of I suppose there's more propositional meaning, I guess you might say, and sometimes they're bodily gestural. And often they're both, and sometimes.
Yeah, I'd like more beeps of just talking to people. So just because it almost on any kind of new type of beep, you kind of need experience in that beep and just figuring out what the hell it was in the first place, and it's kind of like the beeps are quite different from each other, so you kind of do need experience on each type of beep.
I think that's absolutely true, and that is why I believe that what I call the iterative method. I don't know whether we've talked about that, but each beep serves as practice for the next beep, basically.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
And I think there's absolutely no way around that. People say, well, you just ought to train people before the beep, and I say, well, there's no fucking way you can do that. Because we didn't know that he's going to be on his bike and not paying attention to his body, and we got to have some lecture about that before, and we also have to have some lecture before the beep about gestures while talking, and you can't.
Yeah, there'd be 100 introductory classes.
Right, and then the guy would be overwhelmed by the lecture. So I think the lecture is impossible.
Yeah,
and it's worse than that. It goes downhill from there, and so what happens is that I think we need, if you want to find out about inner experience, we need to do the kinds of things that we're doing now. I don't think there's any alternative that I know of. Maybe somebody will come along and we can put a corkscrew in and attach enough neurons to some receiver or something. But at the moment, I don't think there's any substitute for the iterative practice. And it's not only teaching you how to do something, it's also teaching you how not to do something. And this is a conversation that Gualtiero and I are sort of having at the same time. But it's a battle against presuppositions as well as
Right.
as well as learning how to recognize what's there. Is learning how to not theorize about what's not there, or something like that. I'm not sure I said that
Right.
right, but
I think I get your meaning. And it is when you turn the beeper on and put the earphone in, it's hard to just act like it's normal because I am kind of more consciously aware. Okay, I can feel my legs now. I can feel, okay, now stop thinking about my experience. It needs to be no. And then I kind of get in that cycle back and forth of being more aware of my experience than I usually would because I'm expecting a beep. But then usually the beeps almost always catch me off guard. And then I'm like, God, that wasn't what I was experiencing 10 minutes ago. And yeah.
right. That's the magic of randomness, I think. I am a big believer in randomness.
Yeah.
And I do think it just solves a whole lot of problems. On number 5.
So I was having a visual auditory experience watching a video. I thought that this, and I'm curious in your thoughts, this might have been my first beep of unsymbolized thought because I had like a awareness of like a critical lens that I was applying to the video. So I was reviewing a video and so I was looking at every element from the perspective of criticizing it, thinking, is that good? Is that good? Or what's good about that? And it was a very critical lens. And I wasn't sure if a critical lens is unsymbolized thought. It's a weird concept, but it was sort of distinct from a beat that I've had before because it wasn't just sensory. There was a cognitive layer of like evaluating it that was most prominent.
So let's set aside for the moment about whether we should call it unsymbolized or not, and let's see whether we can describe the experience, and then we'll talk about what words we might use to do that. So,
Right.
Am I understanding that I'm engaged in a formal task of reviewing this video? That is, I'm gonna write something about this or talk about it in some way. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I am, and at the moment of the beep, the video is playing. I'm watching it. And I am in a critical mode. That would have been an extending in time deal. I've been in a critical mode since I turned this video on. True. And at the moment of the beep, so what is my experience at the moment of the beep?
Yeah. So I think it's primarily just this cognitive lens of how good was what I just watched, but I actually don't have awareness of what the actual material was that I just watched or the words. But it was very much that critical lens to the whole thing, sort of. That was the dominant experience.
So I haven't particularized, I guess you might say, this criticism. So it's not like I say, well, that's bad or that's good. Yeah. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's that I am in the act of critical analysis or something.
Right. Whatever that is.
Whatever that something is, but I feel myself to be in it. That's part of my experience. I am critically appraising this video.
Yeah.
And nothing in the video at this particular moment has jumped out at me to say, well, this is something I should criticize. I'm available. Exactly. I'm available to that's having happened to me, but it's not happening to me at this particular moment.
Right. Like in that moment of the beep, I didn't note down what my visual or auditory experience was. It was that criticality, that cognitive thinking, is this good? And no specifics on that either. It was kind of an ambiguous, open-ended question in my mind.
And so as far as your experience is concerned, is your experience more of the video, I'm looking out there at the video, or more of Evan as being critical? So the question is, am I is my attention in more or less entirely at the video, and it's a critical kind of intention, but it's aimed at the video? Or am I noticing myself, which would be sort of like a meta awareness of myself as being critical?
Yeah, I think the first one.
Okay. So I am in a critical mode, but that mode is aimed at the video, and my experience is really aimed outside at the video.
Yeah. And maybe like 20% of my awareness is of the actual video and the sound, but it's very dominantly sort of the critical lens and the cognitive thinking about it. That makes sense. It was hard to explain.
So that confused me a little bit. So am I mostly noticing Evan as whether he's confused and critical, or am I mostly noticing the video?
Definitely the critical lens. That's so I said it was about 80%, I think, of me just thinking, is this good? And then 20%, because I was paying attention to the video, but just in that moment, none of it captured my awareness. So I would maybe attribute that 20% of my awareness, the equally split between the audio and the video.
So I am mostly noticing my own reaction.
Yes.
And my reaction is to what's going on in the screen. But basically, I am monitoring Evan, my primary directionality of experience, I guess you could say, would be at my critical reaction.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And that...
another different beep.
Go for it, Gualtiero.
I was wondering if I understood correctly that you felt this critical lens or critical attitude towards the video that you were having without experiencing any words, either being heard or spoken in your head or sub-vocalized or any other images associated with this experience. Did I understand that correctly?
I believe that there was inner dialogue of literally saying the words like, is that good? So it was a critical lens, and I do believe there was some inner process of me thinking, is that good?
And in that case, you could sense the transitions between the words, like you could hear or sense the words one after the other in your thought process. Is like the word is, and then the word that, and the word good.
Right.
Somehow.
I would say I think so. But hard to say for sure. But I think so.
Okay.
So I would notice that the words, is that good, appears in this dialogue several minutes in. Up until this time, it hasn't been about words, it has been about a critical lens. And that may be the result of the questions that I asked as opposed to the questions that Gualtiero asked.
I am relatively uncertain if I was actually saying the words. I have in my mind now that I was, but it's kind of hard to disentangle.
Yeah, so
there was kind of more of a general sense. I don't know. It's
Russ,
really
are you
hard.
saying this because in trying to capture the meaning of this critical lens, you use those words? You said, "Is this good? Is this bad?" I think you said things like that while you were asking Evan. And are you suggesting that maybe those words are now sort of
Incepted inside me.
being
Reified.
by Evan.
Yeah. And I think your question was explicitly about the words, I thought. And my question, and so I'm not blaming anybody here. What I'm saying is that the longer we talk about something, the longer we talk about a beep, the
Yeah.
the more skeptical we should be about that. This is not a
Yeah, for
criticism
sure.
of anybody. This is, our brains are trying to make sense of the world, and the more time we spend about it, the more strands that we can weave in to try to make sense of the things, but also the more confabulatory those could be.
For
And
sure.
and 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 I'm not saying that Gualtiero led us down the wrong track, or that I led us down the wrong track, or that, because I think it's quite possible that probably did say the words "it is good, is that good" first. And what I would say is
I
that
think you did.
this is the way the iterative process works. That we are now learning about how to say something about this. If we get to beep like this again, then maybe we'll be able to figure that out.
You're definitely right that it gets harder the more you talk about it. Because I was thinking more and then I'm trying to recall, like I didn't write it down.
Right. The goal of the iterative process is to get good enough at ascertaining or apprehending, this is a word I like to use, at apprehending what needs to be apprehended quickly enough so that the ambiguities, we've already worked out the ambiguities, and now we can just say, well, this is the kind of thing it was. I've had these kinds of experiences before, and I'm pretty practiced at talking about them. Now I can say it.
Yeah.
and get that stuff memorialized early on in the process. That's the goal, and it takes time and effort and attention.
In terms of, did you say, is this good? And that went into my mind. I actually do have the words, is this good, on the page. I just don't have it that it was words in my head. It was kind of more of a general feeling.
Yeah.
And then I might have confabulated on the words being in my head. I'm not confident on that. But like what I have here exactly is I had a critical lens while watching of, is this good, in quotes, but I didn't write like that. Those words were in my head. There was just kind of a general feeling of, is this good, throughout. And that can be hard to disentangle if those words were in my head in any real way, or if that's ever a thing that's possible.
So what I think we didn't, I think the fundamental thing that we did not disentangle is whether your experience was mostly directed at the video with a particular lens, or more aimed meta process wise at Evan's experience. And I think you said at the outset what I heard as being aimed at the video with a particular lens on it. So like I put on rose-colored lenses or whatever, and everything looks rosy, but what I'm seeing is rosy, and that's rosiness is out there, and it's not color we're dealing with here. It's this criticism deal.
Yeah.
And the question is whether the criticism is, I'm observing myself to be critical, in which case I might even be saying to myself, is that good, unquote? Or am I critically watching the screen, in which case I am mostly attending to the screen in this critical mode?
Yeah.
And I don't think we were capable probably of teasing that apart adequately.
I would say it's both, but it's very hard to know in what parts. I think both, almost certainly both, but I just don't know in what ratio or which was dominant.
Yeah.
And my brain kind of hurts now. I'm trying to think through it.
And part of this experience, what complicated this experience, is that it started out being not only, so we had a difficult decision to make, whether it was out there or in here, and then we had another difficult decision to make as to whether we should call this unsymbolized thinking or another, which is not about here and not about there, but about Hurlburt and what he's written, all this terminology, what I've heard about terminology, and
Yes.
so all that stuff is complicated together. And
Yeah.
what I would say is let's agree not to use the term unsymbolized until the end. Let's
Yeah.
not worry about
Fair
whether
enough.
we should call this unsymbolized, because I think it fucks people up. And
Y-
and let's see whether we can describe the words describe the experience in as plain English as we can get, and then
Yes.
apply some jargon later on, rather than to try to answer a jargon question early on.
Yeah, I think I'm finally understanding why in the intro call to this you don't have like lecture slides saying these are the domain of possible things you will experience for the next few weeks. Everything will fit into these 5 buckets. It's just I got excited that I thought it might be unsymbolized and wrote it down. But
Yeah, and
yeah, it puts a box around it.
that's a very common thing, because my work is known for having discovered unsymbolized thinking or something, and people have that reaction, and it makes it difficult. So
Do you have any idea after all of that confusion, or maybe you don't want to answer this, but do you think that was unsymbolized? And I won't use the word again.
probably not, but I would
Okay.
say we should put on the agenda to answer that question at a time
At the
when
end.
I think it would not fuck us up.
Right.
So I think it's an
Okay.
important question. I'm happy to answer the question, but I don't want us to get into the the difficult. It's a Gualty and I are having another discussion about the importance of words or the different difficulties of words or whatever. But this is at sort of at the heart of that. I don't want us to be trying to fit experiences into words. I want us
Completely
to
get it.
be letting words discover experiences, and using the same word in different ways is fine with me. And I think we've had a lot of what I would call sort of beautiful discussions about words here, like the words about look at the screen or whatever it was that you said about that was, is my I forget what is my where are my sales, where are my sales. The words are at the very best. Words are gestures. So look over there. That's what using a word means. That's what I'm talking about now. Every word is, I think, it's a sort of a entraining your attention to go in some particular direction.
Right.
And sometimes it's they're quite gestural, like this example that we just had. Sample number 4 was a good example of that. And sometimes they're quite semantically specific, but all the time I think they're look here, buddy. And,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well.
But it is easy for us to get caught up in the words, and that is it makes our work difficult, if not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we saw a good example of that literally in that moment. So yeah, it makes complete sense. I will refrain from categorizing anything going forward.
So it's 3 minutes after the next hour. So we've been at this for 63 minutes here. Should we say that's enough and plan another meeting?
Yeah, let's do it.